Alright guys, so this video, the purpose of it is to show you how you're going to set up the tools on the CNC lathe. And so just to give you an idea, what you're going to need to do this is you are going to need a measuring kit. We're going to be using the caliper to measure diameter of stock. You're going to need just a piece of paper. This is just computer paper. I just have a small piece that's ripped off. You're going to be ripping it up a little bit more. Doesn't have to be anything special, just a plain old piece of computer paper. And then you're obviously going to need your stock for your actual part, and this is for the NIMS turning part that we're setting up. Okay, so when we actually go to set up the tools, a couple things I want to point out. The control you're going to have to start to become familiar with. But for right now, we're going to use what's called handle jog. You guys before were using the machine using the MDI commands right here. If we drop right below it, you're going to see a handle jog mode. So the handle jog mode, whenever we want to enter it, you're just going to go ahead and click that. Now I've already done a power up restart. I'm ready to go. And so I just click on handle jog. Now what that does for me is it puts the control of the movement of the machine into this hand wheel right over here. Now in order to use this hand wheel, a couple things have to happen. You have to tell the machine which axis to use. So over here you're going to select either X or Z. Z is going to be left and right. X is going to be forward and back. And then also, in addition to selecting the axis, you also have to select the speed that you're going to move in. So over here on the right side, next to the hand jog menu, you have 4 speed buttons. You have 0.0001, which is a tenth of a thousandth. Then you have 1,000th, 10,000ths, and 100,000ths. And basically what this is referring to, if I click on the 0.01, that means that each time I move this a click, because it clicks instead of just rotates, it's moving 10,000ths. If I adjust it to 0.1 or 100,000ths, every time I move this, it's moving 100,000ths of an inch per click. So the further to the right you have these mode buttons, the faster it's going to move. And then over here on the left, it's going to take quite a bit to move. So if you're far away from where the chuck is or wherever you're going to be touching off, you can select the 10,000ths. I don't want you to go any faster than that. And then you'll see if I select my Z axis, I can either push negative or positive. It doesn't matter for this point. What this does, if I hold Z positive, you'll actually see the machine. If I hold Z positive, you can see the machine just moving slowly. Okay, if I hold Z negative, you can see it moving back towards the chuck. Now if I control it with the hand wheel, you can see I can move it different ways just with the hand wheel, to the left, to the right. Now if I change the speed, right over here to 1,000ths per click, right there, and then come back, you see that it moves a lot slower. So when you're getting close to the machine, you can kind of speed up a little bit and get kind of close. But basically the idea here is we want to touch off the tools, the tip of the tools, on the face of the jaw, or on the face of the chuck right here. And so the reason we're doing that, if you think about it, is we're actually referencing our program off the back of the part. And when we put our part in this chuck, the back of the part is actually going to hit the face of the chuck. And so we can touch our tools off on this face, and that will be our Z0. So what we want to do is we want to touch all the tools that we're going to use. Now in our program, we're either going to use just tool number 1 or tool number 1 and tool number 2. So if we look on the side right here, you can actually see it has a little engraved number, tool 1, tool 2, and it goes all the way around to tool 8. So there's 8 possible tools in this turret right here. So I'm going to touch off tool number 1. So tool number 1 is already in position. Now if I wanted to change positions, all I have to do is come over on the control, and if I go back into my MDI mode and I hit turret forward or turret reverse, it will do the tool change, except right now you can see that it pops up an error that says it can't do it without the door being closed. So if I close the door and I hit turret forward, it goes to tool 2. Now if I go and hit turret reverse, it goes back to tool 1. So right now I'm going to zero out tool number 1. The first axis I'm going to zero out is my Z axis. So the first thing I have to do is bring the tip of this tool and touch it off on the face of the jaw. So I'm going to do that using my handle jog. So I go into handle jog mode, I select 10,000ths per click, and then I'm going to move it in. I'm going to be very careful not to jam this into the chuck, because I'll break my cutter off and I'll mess up the alignment. So I get fairly close, within about an inch, and then I'm going to change the speed to 1,000th per click. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it even closer. Now if I need to adjust my X-axis, I can click X and I can bring X in a little bit to make sure I'm a flat part of the actual chuck face and not over one of the screws. Now I'm going to bring Z in a little bit more. Now this is where your piece of paper is going to come into play. Basically the idea here is you want to take this piece of paper and you want to put it in between the face of the chuck and the tip of the tool. And you want to move the Z-axis over using the hand wheel until this piece of paper gets pinned. Now the way that we do this is we constantly move this piece of paper back and forth so that we can tell when it pins. If you just leave it here, you may not be able to tell when it pins. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to wiggle this piece of paper back and forth after I get really close to the face. So you can see me getting closer to the face, closer and closer and closer. Once I'm within probably about 100 thousandths, I'm going to take my piece of paper, I'm going to put it in between the two, and I'm going to start to wiggle it back and forth. And I'm going to go one click at a time, and I'm set on 0.001 for my speed. One click at a time until it pins. And so basically I'm getting closer and closer. It gets harder to see because the gap's getting very small. But you'll start to feel a little resistance on the paper, and then it'll pin. So take your time with this, especially while you're getting used to it. So I can start to feel a little bit of drag coming on it. Now it's starting to catch it. Right now it just pinned. So if I take my hand away, it stays right there. It's pinned in place. And so if I were to try to pull this out, it actually rips the paper because it's pinned. So we don't need to actually rip the paper. I just wanted to show you that that's how we know it's pinned right there. Now what we have to do at this point is we have to zero out the Z-axis. And the way we do that is using our offset menu. Basically, we're telling the machine how far it is away from its home position for each specific tool. So under the display menu, you're going to see an offset button. And up at the screen, when I hit offset, what it's going to do is it's going to transition between two offset menus. One is my tool geometry, one is my work zero offset. I'm going to stick up top to my tool geometry, so that should be white. So right now I'm highlighted in the white. Now you're going to see I have all of my tools here, and right now number one is highlighted in yellow. If I wanted to, I could change using my cursor buttons. I could change the 1, 2, 3, whatever, but I want to keep it on number one for right now because that's the one I'm touching off. Then you're going to see I have an X value and a Z value. So right now Z is highlighted, but it doesn't really matter. You just have to be on tool number one. And once you're touched off on the face, what you're going to do is you're going to come down here. And now in this menu option, in this area of the menu controls, you're going to see two major buttons we're going to use. We're going to use X diameter measure and Z face measure. Now since right now we're touching off on the Z axis or the face of the chuck, we're going to hit Z face measure. And once I hit this button, you're going to see up top at the menu the Z value change. So right now when I hit it, you can see it just changed to -7.851, and that's saying that's how far it is in Z from the machine home. And now the machine knows exactly where my zero is in relation to that specific tool. So that's setting your Z axis. So just keep in mind, you have to set yourself on 0.1 to get it close, and then 0.001. And once you get real close to pin the paper in between the two, you have to make sure you're touched off on the face, and then you make sure you're highlighted the correct tool up top. And then you hit the Z face measure button, and it'll change that value.